first time recording a Zoom meeting. Okay, back to screen share. And here we are. Great. Well, I'm honored to be sharing space with you all today, and I'm really grateful that you're showing up with curiosity and hopefully some joy, or wherever you are doing more than half the work by just showing up, and I'm really honored that you've had just the calling to be here and share space. It means a lot. This is a unfolding bi-weekly series, and each week we'll be hitting different topics and going into the niches of mushrooms. We'll mostly talk about psilocybin, but I'm also going to invite other species that I've closely worked with before, and we'll dive into all sorts of topics. But this is our first circle. And so we're gonna try to draw from the basics and go from there. My intention as your guide is to help you evolve in a fluid way and for you to come home to your high self and to share some tools that have helped me personally and in my opinion are helping the world evolve in really amazing, incredible ways on so many different levels. This is the new moon in Aries. If any of you are into astrology at all, the new moon calls in for us to make new intentions, and this particular one has a lot of fire energy to it because it is Aries and also because it's the spring equinox. Happy spring after a long winter. It calls us to fully hold on and embrace our passions and get after them, walk through the fears and all. So with that being said, here we go. On to the next page. Yeah, I just want to do a little bit more of an introduction of who I am and who our other host is today. So you get to know us a little bit more, and I want to get to know you more because that's what we're really here for, is for connection, embracing each other and embracing plants, or I should say mycelium and fungi, to connect us to ourselves and to each other. So I'm a yoga teacher as well, 500 hours certified in trauma-informed studies, Ayurvedic studies. I'm a storyteller on many different mediums, a musician, and I pay my bills through social media marketing. And some personal tools are meditation, pranayama, breath work, which we'll get to practice a little bit here today, asana, yoga poses, get on my mat every day to try to incorporate consistency in the ever-evolving times of our lives, herbalism, working with plants, forest bathing, being out in nature, connecting with a more than human world. Ayurveda, which is something that you can ask me about privately, or we might touch upon in upcoming circles, and growing and foraging, which my grandparents are here and they're a big part of my life into why I do that today. They grew me on a homestead where they grew so many fruit trees and big vegetable gardens. And I do EMDR with my therapist, which is a tactic to help rewire the brain that's on trauma, and mountaineering. So I like to push my body out in nature, music, dance, writing, and microdosing. And I'll hand the mic over to Courtney.
That was beautiful, Cheyenne. Thanks for sharing. I am just so honored to be with you all today. My name's Courtney Murphy, yoga student forever and 200-hour teacher, just trying to sort of dip my toes into that journey. I have been a community health researcher for the past 8 and continued years. I'm also in school to be a therapist. So I'm working on school counseling and plan on doing an LPC licensure and doing like family and child parent relations after that. In a little bit of a different way than most folks think of therapy. So most of those spaces are office spaces. So similar to Cheyenne and the forest bathing, that's a little bit what if some of the personal tools down below, that ecotherapy, that nature therapy, is really something that I practice a lot. Connecting to those things that are bigger than ourselves, that kind of expand our mind. So along with that, a lot of holistic health. Love all things holistic health, digging deeper into how nature can heal us through food, also an Ayurveda enthusiast. Mindfulness, really love myofascial release for those stuck points in the body. If you're interested in that, you can always ask as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And then I guess kind of last but not least, touching on what that bilateral stimulation is. So very similar, EMDR is like a version of that bilateral stimulation. And we can initiate this in so many cool ways. So that's what we'll talk a little bit more about.
Awesome. Courtney and I met on the West Virginia rivers, going down some pretty good rapids. All right. Here we go. We're going to Fantastic Fungi trailer, which I should have had up and ready for you all, but I don't. If you have watched it, to me, it's a film that I could watch over and over again. One of those things that just have so many bites of information, and each bite they're mind-blowing bites. It takes a while to digest them, and if you haven't seen it, it will change your life. Paul Stamets is someone that we're going to introduce today in the circle. I wish he could be here. Maybe one day. He is a main character of this film. And he has made a lot of incredible inventions, and he's leading on the frontier of mushrooms as medicine for people and the environment.
My mission is to discover the language of nature, and I believe nature is intelligent.
There is a world under the earth, full of magic and mystery. It holds the consciousness of nature's connection to all living things.
These mushrooms, they can heal you, they can feed you, they can kill you.
It's not like a vegetable and it's not like an animal, but it's somewhere in between.
They support life, they convert life.
As you're walking through, it's about 300 miles of fungi under every footstep that you take, and that's all over the world.
The bulk of the organism is growing underground, and it's composed of these long threads called a mycelium.
Almost everyone knows about the computer internet. The mycelium shares the same network design.
It's amazing what we don't know about mushrooms. They really are a frontier of knowledge.
You can filter water. You can create medicinal compounds almost on demand.
They have incredible capacity to make things change very quickly. So I am super hopeful.
The psychedelic members of the mushroom kingdom are fascinating.
I have been a guide for around 350 psilocybin sessions.
The most glorious part was that it made me feel more comfortable with living because you're not afraid of dying.
We need to have a paradigm shift in our consciousness. What will it take to achieve that?
We can heal the planet. We can build the future. And our world is fantastic.
I almost started tearing up personally. And I've watched that trailer a few times. So my personal interactions with mushrooms that have led me today to share the magic of them consist of growing up in the Appalachian forest, getting to walk through our trees and our forests with elders who knew and still knows a lot of the incredible information that they hold. And I would forage with elders. And then I started doing it on my own. And I also had the opportunity to inoculate some bolts in college. I was very privileged to go to a college that had some programs that were out of the box. And a part of that was growing mushrooms. And I take daily tinctures that are made by my mother, but they can be found in holistic food stores all over and medicinal stores, and meditational walks. So walking through the forest just to look for mushrooms and to be aware of them, you really have to be present. And so I think even if you don't walk out of the forest with mushrooms in your hands, you walk out of the forest feeling alive and grounded because you've come to a place in a space where you're really able to be present in your mind and your body. And then I also have been microdosing for about 5 days a week, 2 days off, for roughly 8 or 9 months. And then I want to give Courtney a chance, if you want, to share some of your personal passions quickly about mushrooms.
Sure. While I am just barely dipping my toe into the foraging world, I certainly have been doing a lot of growing and canning and composting and casting throughout the years growing up with my parents. And so understanding what growing our own food in that space has done has really just like fueled the fire to learn more about the foraging process and really just dive deeper into what other mushrooms can do as well. Microdosing has changed my world. I was extraordinarily anxious at baseline in my early years, and finding something that allowed me to sit in that awareness very non-judgmentally has been absolutely transformative in the choices that I was able to make, healthier choices. So yeah, just dipping my toe into the world of other mushrooms, but so excited to be here for that reason.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So we will get into foraging other species as we move forward in these bi-weekly series. But as I said, today is just a basic dipping your toes into so much that is out there. But I'll leave you with this. When foraging, if you haven't started yet and have an interest, or even if you're an old-time forager and you've been doing it for a long time, it's a humbling experience. It's one to do with a lot of respect, patience, and honing in your skills, taking your time. And the most beautiful part about it for me is that it helps us humans become more aware with the more than human world. So we live in a very egocentric society, and I'm seeing some pushes and a lot of small communities push towards an eco-centric community. And I think foraging is one of the most beautiful ways that you can do it. I encourage people to buy books, listen to podcasts, go talk to the elders in your community. There's local Facebook foraging groups, so much information out there. And so we're going to hop on the psychedelic psilocybin train for a little bit. And There's been a lot of scientific articles out there recently, and the science started coming out in the 30s and 40s with Timothy Leary and some other leaders, but it quickly got shut down because of the hippie movement, recreationally using macrodosing, and it turning into something that our society pushed away. And now it's being reopened, and it's being reopened in a successful way. It's been decriminalized in some states, and it's in therapeutic spaces. It's basically in a place where marijuana was before it was legalized. So that's a really beautiful thing. But I want to bring in that it's great to accredit science, and it's great to applaud all the beautiful studies that are being put out there right now, because they are incredible. But let us go back to the very beginning and know that this is an indigenous sacred medicine that is very, very ancient, very old. So part of my passion in bringing mushroom education into communities is bringing in the indigeneity of them, and trying to uplift indigenous voices, and looking to the indigenous voices. We're all crazy about Michael Pollan and Paul Stamets, but and they're everywhere, and it's easy to be crazy about them because they are everywhere, but they're often saying things and regurgitating information that has already been said and done by indigenous communities. And so this woman, Lisa Marcia's Red Bear, she leads a lot of intersectional panels and talks around psilocybin and psychedelics. And so this quote says, "We can't start the history of psychedelics in the 60s in the Americas. That needs to stop. We indigenous people used this medicine before Jesus Christ walked this earth." And this is very exciting and really cool. These old sculptures are roughly 3,000 years old, and they're Mayan. But we have found as a society some pictographs in Spain that have been identified as a psilocybin species that are roughly 6,000 years old. So this is fungi containing the psychoactive compound psilocybin, were consumed by the Aztecs for medicinal, religious, and recreational purposes. Aztecs believed psilocybin allowed traditional healers to enter the world, bestowing upon them divine knowledge that could be brought back to the community. For Maztec shamans, consumption of magic mushrooms was essential to become a healer, as these fungi provided the ability to both diagnose and cure disease. Similar to ayahuasca, psilocybin ceremonies could also serve other purposes, such as asking for solutions to problems, finding lost objects, or reconnecting with lost loved ones. Just want to make sure, yeah, we're on cue. I have a set of side notes beside me. So we're going to go into the difference between microdosing and macrodosing. A lot of people, when they hear psilocybin or mushrooms, they think shrooms, let's go trip our face off, or no, thank you, I do not want to trip my face off. You don't have to get the medicinal things that they have to offer us as humans, and there's so much to offer. So microdosing is around 1 to 10% of what a macrodose would be. And you're not in a trippy psychedelic headspace. In fact, you do feel the energy of it, but you're not seeing colors. Your senses are a bit heightened, but you're more gregarious, you're more creative, less anxiety, less depression. But once again, with any other medicinal tool and anything else in the world, it's not one size fits all, right? So everyone has a different experience, and that's something that I'm really passionate about, is helping each individual move through their experiences and find what is right for them. And so as we go along in these circles, we'll get to uncover what microdoses can help with. There is so much being studied right now and so many case studies that prove a lot of beautiful, amazing things. And Courtney later on is going to go into the neuroscience a little tiny bit to get us excited for our next few sessions. And a macrodose is 1 to 7 grams. I'll back up a little bit. So the microdose sweet spot for someone who metabolizes something pretty regularly, I'd say, is about 200 milligrams. And so there's 1,000 milligrams in a gram. And some people are really sensitive, and 100 milligrams is the way to go, or even 50 or 25. And it's all about finding your intuition and listening to it and respecting yourself in that way. So macrodose is 1 to 7 grams. And hero's journey is often what's used in professional therapy spaces, where you take 7 grams, you put the blindfold on, and a therapist walks you through what has been caged up inside. And sometimes it's a beautiful, wonderful experience. And then other times it brings you to your shadow work and what you've been holding onto or not wanting to face. And if dealt and integrated in an appropriate way, in a respectful manner, it can really help propel you into your life and living it in a more peaceful way. But unlike microdosing, macrodosing is said that you should only do it every 3 to 6 months. Microdosing is weekly. Personally, I haven't macrodosed in almost a year. So it's, like I said, it's one of those beautiful tools that you can intuitively tap into and use it as, or work with it, respect it as you need. And so I'm going to let Courtney take over here for a little bit to talk about how psilocybin affects the brain. And we aren't going to go full-fledged there because we could spend an hour on each topic, but I'm really excited to hear what we're going to dive into today. Thank you.
Sorry, trying to minimize things and I minimized the wrong thing. All right, so the research is a little bit minimal on psilocybin, but what we do see shows beautiful, beautiful promise. And for a long time, we've known that psilocybin was interacting with our serotonin receptors. We knew that this 5-HTPA receptor that's in our brain was being impacted in a very similar way to a lot of our SSRI medications, for instance. But the brain scans that we were seeing were just a little bit different. So we're really, really excited to have really uncovered some new neuroscience that just kind of shows that while serotonin acts on the outside of the cell, psilocybin can go intracellular. So we're kind of hypothesizing that it has some healing powers that really other medications can't even touch. So I think that this is things that we've known for a long time all along, deep down, a lot of, especially like the indigenous folks. But now we're just kind of, our new science is catching up to those things that nature has always known. So this kind of, what does this do? This builds what we know as neuroplasticity. So when we are presented with a choice in life, and we make that decision, it makes it a little bit easier for our brain to make that decision again. So that's kind of why you might know something to be true, but still choose something that's a little bit different from what you might hope. So psilocybin really promotes the brain's ability to create new pathways, to build those connections in much different ways. And so those neurons can now fire in very different ways than the brain was predisposed to before. So as point 3 kind of says here, in the context of therapy, enhanced neuroplasticity is going to allow for different changes in thoughts and patterns. And when our thoughts are impacted, that changes our emotional response. In therapy, we simply say, in a lot of cases, thoughts cause feelings. So when we change those thoughts, we change the way we feel about them. And so we change the way our body's responding to that. And so this is kind of that brain-body connection. When we are feeling less distressed, our mind has way more capacity to work on all of those different elements that allow us to heal physically. So that's kind of this point 4. So all of the substance use disorder, Alzheimer's, anorexia, Lyme's disease, and a whole lot more. We're seeing it has a huge impact on immune system response. So that kind of gives us a little summation of that. And this is just a little bit of a description or visualization as well of what that kind of looks like. So here's our brains, if you think of all of these strings as different neural pathways in the brain, you see that under psilocybin, all of these extra pathways that are now able to form in free flow really allow for us to use a larger wave and a larger capacity of the brain. And when we look at those mycelium structures that exist underneath of the soil, very much like what exists underneath of our skull, and very much like what we see in a lot of the cosmos. So very beautiful how nature imitates itself in its healing capacity.
Yeah, and I'd like to, beautifully said, Courtney, thank you. I'd like to note that the mycelium network underground is connecting with other plant roots and helping the plants bring nutrients to other trees where they need to go. It's a connector, and I feel so are our neurons in our thinking patterns, their connector, and we are connected through this medicine right now. And that's my biggest passion around it, is that I really truly do feel like it helps you connect to the natural world, to yourself, to others. Yeah. So we're going to go through a few different microdosing protocol names. Each week we'll dive deeper into what those protocols will look like. There's the Fadiman protocol. He is a scientist. Microdosing Institute, 2 days a week, Stamets Stack, and Intuitive. My favorite two are the Stamets Stack and the Intuitive. So going back to Paul Stamets, he has 22 patents published, which are patents are basically inventions, and most of those are around saving the bees. And an example is how a mushroom can break down neurotoxins. And there are currently 20 more patents being reviewed by the government, and most of those are about psilocybin. An example of one of those inventions is how psilocybin enhances neurogeneration and cognition. But he talks about how, this was shut down before, so how can we go about this in a way that is that sustains itself so that we can continue forward with it. When studying these different protocols, I always say, pick what feels right for you. And the two most important keys are that you take a break. so that you don't build up tolerance and that you build consistency simultaneously, because the consistency is really what's going to help your brain heal. And also having consistency in your practices, it's one of the things that have helped me transform my life very vigorously. And microdosing for me is a part of the foundation that lives with yoga and breath work and meditation. So yeah, more about Paul. He is an author of many incredible books. And so his stack is with lion's mane, which also it causes or it implements neurogeneration. So lion's mane is a beautiful fungi that you can eat as well, but the neurogeneration comes from the mycelium itself. And B3, a vitamin B, as well as niacin. Niacin helps to distribute and enhances the action within your brain. So niacin is, people take it to flush their body, but in a microdose way, it just helps distribute medicine more evenly. And then I like to incorporate reishi into my stack as well for immune boosting services, as well as anti-inflammatory services. And back to you. Oh, we have a question. Hopefully one of us can answer it. Go for it, Isaac.
I was just wondering if these things are like, if I Googled this, because I like the idea of stacking, as I've been having amazing, oh, the camera's over here. I've been having a really great experience with microdosing. It's like it's been a quantum leap. So stacking is nice, but I'm gonna forget all those other names. If I Google Stammet stacking, will I find stuff?
Yes, yeah. And feel free to reach out to me after this. I can help with resources as well with a product that has all of the different ones.
Oh, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, Adora, hello, Hummingbird Medicine.
Hi, love. I have a question actually related to that as well that I was going to ask you, but I might as well ask you now. So I did a little research as well on the stacking, and I'm just curious. The things I was reading all said 4 days on, 3 days off. So has he changed it, or why is it that you do or say that it's 5 days on, 2 days off? Oops, sorry, my battery's getting low.
Well, it's like there's so many different protocols, and he has a few different. Oh, did we just lose her? Anyways, I'll answer that. Oh no, you're there. Okay, you disappeared. That's a good question. I've seen both up there, and I think going back to what I had said, after all of the different protocols, it's important to have space between. And this is such a investigative process for all of us too. So I'd like to research that more and see what Paul really sticks to, but I guarantee that he would probably say in one of his interviews, it changes all the time because we're constantly evolving with an alone life. And these are just two different ways that I've been able to see substantial progress. So going off of that, if that's something that you feel more called towards, leaning into your intuition and your body's subtleties of what could work best for you. But also the 5 days on, 2 days off for me is more consistent in, okay, I can do this Monday through Friday, or, and take those 2 days instead of the 4 and 3. I hope that answers your question. Awesome. And Linda, you are on. Oh yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been microdosing for about a year now. And I just was wanting to share with the folks here today a couple things that I've experienced. I am disabled and had a drawer full of prescriptions. A lot of anxiety, bipolar, depression, you name it, high blood pressure, big problem, high blood pressure. And I started through the advice of my daughter, who's a wellness coach, to try CBD, and then afterwards added the microdosing. My blood pressure this past year has been almost spot on 120/80. My anxiety levels have just almost disappeared. Sure, we all have our moments, our days, our weeks, but generally, I just feel a lot happier, a lot more energetic. I personally do 5 on, 2 off, and I've been consistent. And I feel like really the 2 days off, I don't feel much difference. I seem to maintain whatever the psilocybin is doing for me. And I also haven't had the need in a year to increase my dose unless I choose to for a recreational reason. That being said, I have also this year been making tinctures with mushrooms. And I personally, like you, do the lion's mane. This winter, I did a chaga and mixed with oregano, the herb, the chaga being super immune and therefore also bacterial fighter, and the oregano is a viral fighter. And I'm the only person I know who didn't get sick. You gotta love that. Thanks for listening and letting me share.
Thanks for sharing, Mama. Great to have family here, and how blessed I am to have ancestors who, my grandparents are here, my mother is here, who not only support me, but also support this medicine and this evolution and this revolutionary societal change that is happening with such incredible species. And with that, we will have more time to share at the end, and we're going to keep on going because we have 15 minutes left.
Oh, so exciting. That support is everything. Oh, connection is everything, as it is for our brains too. So I just wanted to share something really cool with you all, because we've talked about how strengthening these connections really helps us make good choices. But pairing tools with awareness that really help us apply these is kind of what, like, the last few minutes, what we have in store for everyone. So first, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about the neuroscience piece. So when we talk to kids about this, especially, we like to use the hand model of the brain. And I love to think of things in kids' terms because it's what sticks for me. So that's kind of a little bit of what I'm going to talk about today. So if we think about our arm here as our spine and our wrist here is our brain stem, all of the feelings that come bubbling up throughout the body and our nerves. And for some reason, my computer raised my hand because my hand's raised, right? Fun. So all of those feelings come bubbling up through the body and they travel in through the brainstem. And so this is what we know is like our vagus nerve, communicates all of those things. And then those needs show up in our most basic here in the back of the brain. And then if we have the capacity, we express those needs in somehow and make sense of them. So those are our feelings showing up in the limbic system. So we represent that with our thumb. And in this midbrain section here, we've got all kinds of cool stuff going on, but we'll probably talk about those next time. Our security guard, all of our memories, things like that. But our front fingers here, if you've ever heard of someone saying they flipped their lid, we've lost control of our front brain. So this is our front brain. This is what makes sense of our world. So that's what we have here on the front. So our left brain is all of the meaning that we put to our world. And then our right brain is just looking at everything for what it is. And so a lot of times when we're stuck in patterns that don't serve us, we're using a lot of the left brain without really being able to step back into the right. So we talk about looking at things from a bird's eye view and being able to look at things without taking them personally. That's something that the right brain's like really, really good at. So that's something that mushrooms and these connecting all these neural pathways and strengthening them is really allowing us to tap into that what is happening and then what meaning am I making of it. And so I think that this little hand model is just kind of a nice way to remind ourselves how our brain's looking at all of these things very differently. And with that being said, we're going to dive into a little bit of breath work. So we know that mushrooms are doing a lot of really, really awesome things for our body, but we can also use breath work as a tool to enhance and increase and apply this awareness. So breath work's great for sleep, great for anxiety, is really, really great for your relationship with yourself and understanding what you need, and also can help calm us down and get that front brain back online so that we can have those big conversations without flipping out and really having big emotional reactions that maybe are not warranted in the situation.
I'd also just like to add that breathing deeply and practicing breath work regularly helps to uptake your white blood cells. So you're getting more blood flow, your white cells fight off bad things in your body. So it's pretty basic, but it's really amazing. And the other thing about breath work, there's so much. I'll leave it at that for now.
It does so many amazing things to strengthen immune response. It's another topic I could go on about all day. So with that being said, talking about the right and the left brain, talking about bilateral stimulation, touching on what EMDR is for a moment, this is a really great breathwork technique that we can use to balance the right and the left side of the brain. And when these brain systems feel balanced, we're much, much calmer and much more rational. So to do this breathwork technique, we typically take our hand out in front of us and we put the pointer finger and the middle finger down into our palm. Your thumb starts off on your one side of your nostril. Breathe in to a count of 4. We'll then take the ring finger and pinch for a second. Open up the other nostril and breathe out to 6. Swapping, bringing that thumb back to the other nostril. In for 4. Briefly pinching. And back out to 6. Another round. Into 4. Gently pinch. Letting out the other side to 6. Gently pinch. Inhale to 4. Closing it off and out to 6 the other side. Into 4. Gently pinch. Out to 6. Into 4. Gently pinch. Out to 6. In. Pinch. Out. 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 2 more rounds. In. Pinch. Out. Last one. In. Pinch. Out. And taking a quick moment to just check in with what is or is not there after that practice. Maybe the shoulders feel a little lighter. Maybe the head feels a little less busy. Maybe the heart a little lighter as well. Whatever shows up.
Staying with this beautiful breath that Courtney allowed us to dive deep into, we'll keep our eyes closed. I invite you to look to the center of your forehead, relaxing your jaw, relaxing your fascia around your bones. Feeling your vitality in the rhythm through your breath, moving freely. Noticing the air on your skin. Noticing clothes on your body. Same with your breath. Inhaling smoothly. Exhaling smoothly. Noticing the sounds around you. Noticing any tension in your body. Sending big breath there. And relaxing into it. Start to bring your awareness back to the center of the room by deeply inhaling. Deeply exhaling. One more. Inhale through your nose, starting from the depth of your diaphragm, all the way to the top of your rib cage. Hold it and let it out through your mouth. So we're letting go of anything that doesn't serve us while we walk into a new phase of our being. The moon cycle and our season cycle. Opening up your eyes, moving your fingers. And you know what? I wasn't planning this, but let's stand up for a second. And we'll do one of the quickest practices that I love to do at home, in the yoga studio, in the grocery store, on my walks. Shake it out. Jump up and down, shake your shoulders, shake your head, shake your legs, one leg, the other. Let's get into it. Let that shit go. Maybe invite some smiles, laughter, some shake your lips. It's one of the quickest ways to reset your nervous system. Let go of tension. My grandma taught me this, and my first yoga school taught me this. All right, a deep inhale, bring your arms to the sky. Exhale it out. Woo. All right, coming back to our seats. Although I'd like to just keep moving my body and get into a flow state with y'all, because flow states are also what help us to be present in this moment and to fully embody our capabilities of showing up in the world. Thank you, Courtney, for leading us through Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing. All right, we're going to open up the circle to you all now. I know it's 5 o'clock, but we're here to hear anything that came through to you, any knowledge that you want to share on today's circle, questions, inspirations, aspirations, and then we'll go into Q&A, as well as I'm going to give you something to walk away with today to implement into your daily life. So go at it. I know we had some people share and ask some questions, but here we are again. In the chat, I did see Melinda asked if we would be getting a copy of the documents. I'm inspired to start an e-news, and so maybe integrating those slowly into that. And also, if you want something specifically, I'll be sharing my email and Instagram at the end, so you can reach out to me personally if you want it right away. And my mama, Superwoman, Linda Carter. Oops. Oh, you're muted.
Got it?
Yeah.
Is peyote a mushroom, a fungus? Because I know the indigenous people use that for the reasons that you mentioned or read about earlier. And I haven't really heard anything in the last year or so in conversation or article or anything.
Yeah, peyote, I believe it's not a fungus. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a plant, and it's actually very sensitive and it's endangered. It only grows in one place in the world. And so I think that there's been some sort of strategy in news for it to not be a super hot topic, probably because of that. But also, if you watch How to Change Your Mind, which is a Netflix documentary series, also a beautiful book, Michael Pollan talks about peyote there, and they talk about some really beautiful initiatives to save it, because it is essentially going extinct, although it is not, because there are a bunch of beautiful initiatives that are happening. And I've been involved with one personally through a friend, and I will be happy to share that show with you, Mom. But just for everyone, it's called How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan on Netflix, or the book. And also just invite you to do your own research when you're doing this, to type in indigenous or indigeneity, and get to the real root of this beautiful potent medicine or medicines.
Michael Pollan, you said?
Did I say Michael Pollan? Yes. Yep.
How to Change Your Mind. I got it.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to let everyone in the group know too, when I was talking about my experience and the health and emotional benefits, that I have lost my prescription medicine. I have an empty drawer now. So I did want to make that clear, that I'm not doing both together. Thanks. I've got to run to class.
Thanks, Mom. She inspires me to want to do documentary about the powers of these. Ciao for now.
So.
All right. Bye, Hillary. Thanks for coming. Any other questions? Yeah, Melinda.
Hello.
Hi.
So I enjoy microdosing. I do want to get into it more because the last time it actually helped with my type 2 diabetes to get me down.
Wow.
So unfortunately, I went through a bad experience with medication to get everything corrected again. So, because my A1C was 6.2 and then it shot right up to like a 14.9. So now I'm back down to a 6.2 with the medication, but I want to get off of it eventually. So I would like to start doing this again. So, because it was amazing, because my gentleman friend, he has wicked bad PTSD from being in the military. And I was like, well, I know this young lady, you should probably hook up with her. Unfortunately, she did pass away this year, so he doesn't have in contact with her anymore due to medical issues. So to where I'm in the medical field, I've been doing research, and I don't know how to jump back into everything, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this.
Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing a little bit of your personal story. I'm really loving that from people today, because I think it helps propel us forward on our individual journeys, right? And to keep showing up and doing the work. This is where it's complicated because it's not totally legal yet, right? So anytime that I work with someone coaching, and they're on medications and they're working with a very
Can I see if Isaac,
while
you're driving?
just mute her. Okay. But yeah, working with different diseases and medications from the Western world. I am not a doctor, and I will never claim to be unless I go get my doctorate degree. And I appreciate and believe in Western science, but I'm also working through a little bit of anger and resentment towards it because of the lack of looking at the individual and instead of saying, okay, you've got this, here's some medication, walk out the door. And Eastern medicine, which I'd like to say psychedelic medicine is a part of that, is asking the person about everything in their lives and getting to know the person, not the dis-ease, not the thing that they carry, because that doesn't make you who you are, right? Some doctors are really cool with it. I have a few friends in Colorado who have been able to go to their doctors and talk about it straightforward. I've had a friend in West Virginia who was comfortable enough to talk with their doctor about it, but that's something that you have to be wary of because it's not totally legalized yet. But when working with prescription medications, I always say, I can sit here and do hours of research, but I don't have the answer. It's especially with, it's different with SLRIs, antidepressants, the psilocybin works with the receptors in your neurological system similarly that SRLIs do. And so it's easier to taper off those and replace it with the psilocybin. But I'd be really interested to hear about your specific journey, Melinda, and how you were able to do that successfully. But I just say that with any integration, it's always important to do it slowly with as much support as you can. And when it comes to medical things, to do it with support from the Western and the Eastern medical societies. And I don't know. I just love hearing that you brought up diabetes today, because there's so many diseases that, and I'm not saying diseases, I'm saying diseases, something that isn't easeful in your body, right? So I've left my email at the bottom here and my Instagram name. Feel free to reach out to me personally about microdosing or any other mushroom. And our next circle will be on the 4th, so 2 weeks from now, and it will have a focus on trauma. So as you all know, Courtney is studying it, and she's got her heads in the book and in the field and has so much valuable information and education to share with us. And then I'm going to be raw and vulnerable with you all and share some of my stories about being a PTSD survivor and my journeys of being in the dark night of the soul and blooming. And also, you don't just dispel diseases, you work with them and through them, you integrate. So we're always carrying the yin, the yang, the darkness and the light, and how to bring balance into that. So the registration link, I will drop that in the chat box now. And then also to finish and say, any donations are welcome today. Pay what you can. And we're using part of those donations for a fund for people who don't have the resources to access this medication. Courtney, thank you so much for coming in. Our partnership was kind of like last minute, and she came up with this idea. It's such a beautiful goddess move. I'm really excited about that. And there will be more information on how to apply for that fund. And I'll be sending out emails. Let's see. Meetings, I'm going to drop that. This one, yeah. And any other questions, comments, inspirations?
I had similar experiences of being very frustrated with Western medicine and a lot of Western things because in a short period of during COVID, so I had tons of time to go down many rabbit holes. I learned so many things that exist in the world that were clearly happening and real, and also broke so many assumptions about how things are supposed to work. But the thing that I learned through having such a high level of skepticism and frustration was that the thing that both sides share is a sense of discipline. Not as in like you've done wrong, but discipline in terms of like if you're gonna do 4 days on or 5 days on, part of doing on is doing off, and you have to do off because if you don't do off, then you're not on, you're going somewhere else. So even though they have very different viewpoints, they're both consistent with like they've got rules for reasons. So that's but that's a skill you can learn in your own life without having to adhere to one view or another. Just like the basic scientific process of not even like peer review or anything like that, of just like how to create the container, and then in the container go have a right brain time. But maybe don't make the container with your right brain, make the container with your left brain.
I love that. Thank you so much, Isaac. I look forward to getting to know you more and hearing more about those experiences in depth, because I'm sure that
Yeah.
there's so much there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. That once, I mean, I just want to end with consistency, like you said, Isaac, in anything that we do, and following the beat of our own drum. So everything that you hear in the circles are just offerings, and you can take what works for you and leave the rest. And that's a process to be patient with yourself with. And so some homework, I don't want to call it homework. What? Let me decolonize my brain for a second.
Call it educational learning.
Thank you, Linda. Some educational learning, something to walk away with, something tangible to implement, whether you're microdosing or not. We are coming up on a new moon tonight, so I invite you to do a little new moon meditation and write about an intention of what your biggest dreams are and some steps that you can take getting there. And so there's always the big steps, but what are those little steps that you can take within the next few weeks and getting there? And then setting an affirmation for your next not affirmation, setting an intention for your next 2 weeks, and then looking at yourself every single morning in the mirror and giving yourself an affirmation every day. Look at yourself in the eyes. Well, that is it, folks. I've really enjoyed our time together, and I hope to see you again next week. Thank you, Courtney, and thank you to all the participants who showed up today.
I appreciate you all so very much. Have a wonderful
Bye.
afternoon.
Ciao. Patrick, sorry I called you Paul. What'd you guys think? Oh, I should stop recording.